All right, so let's jump into a topic that's been making some serious waves lately. Tim Cook, Apple's CEO, dropped a cool $1 million into Donald Trump's inauguration fund.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we're gonna kind of like dissect this whole thing, try to figure out like what's the deal with this donation? What does it tell us about, big tech getting cozy with the political scene, and what are people even saying about all this? We're going deep with a Gizmodo article that lays out all the donation details, and also this pretty heated Reddit thread where people are, going back and forth about what it all means.
It sounds like a juicy one. Public opinion can be a wild ride.
Oh, for sure. So let's kick things off with that Gizmodo piece. They bring up some interesting points, like Cook's $1 million donation. It's not exactly out of the blue. Other tech bigwigs like Zuckerberg and Altman, they've been throwing similar amounts into the pot. Actually, Trump's 2016 inauguration, most expensive one ever, and a lot of that cash came straight from corporate pockets.
That's interesting. It's like this unspoken rule, Doesn't matter who's in the Oval Office. Companies, they just love throwing money at inaugurations.
Yeah.
Almost like a tradition or something. It's all about, getting in good with the new administration.
Yeah, so it's not just a tech thing then. But still makes you wonder, what's in it for these companies? Are they just buying a fancy dinner with the president, or is there something more to this whole donation game?
Well, you see, the article kind of suggests these companies, they see these donations as a way to maybe nudge policy in their favor down the road. We're talking, tariff breaks, looser regulations, even just being in the room when the big decisions are made.
So it's all about having the president's ear. But isn't that kind of like legalized bribery? Is that how we want things to work?
That's a question a lot of folks are wrestling with. And that's where that Reddit thread gets really spicy. People are going at it, calling it a bribe, saying it's just the price of doing business, in a world where money talks.
Wow, so much passion over one donation, huh? Can you give us a taste of some of these, let's say, colorful comments?
Oh, yeah, there's this one guy who wrote, "Imagine dropping $1 million to eat McDonald's with a fat orange Nazi that shits his diapers." You can feel the anger, right?
Yikes. Well, they're not holding back, that's for sure. I get where they're coming from, though. It does seem a bit off, Cook, this big advocate for LGBTQ plus rights, donating to someone like Trump, whose policies haven't exactly been rainbow friendly.
Yeah, it's definitely raising eyebrows. And there's another comment that really nails the cynicism. It's like pulling out your wallet, flashing $5,000, then giving a thief $100 not to rob you.
Ouch. Kind of feels like protection money, doesn't it? But are we maybe giving companies like Apple too much credit? Like, are they really these puppet masters?
Yes.
Or are they just as stuck in this messed up system as the rest of us?
It's a good point. It's easy to point fingers at corporations. But the system itself kind of encourages this behavior. And remember, this isn't just a Trump thing. Inauguration donations been going on forever.
So it's just business as usual then? We're trapped in the cycle of money-controlling politics. Is there even a way to break free?
Those are the questions we'll be tackling as we dig deeper into, what Cook's donation could really mean and look at some possible solutions to this whole systemic mess.
Yeah, it's definitely a tangled web. But before we get too ahead of ourselves, I want to rewind back to that Gizmodo article for a sec. They mentioned this thing called corporate welfare, which some people see as the main reason behind these donations. Can you break that down for us?
Sure thing. So corporate welfare, it's basically all the goodies the government throws at corporations. Subsidies, tax breaks, you name it. And the idea is that companies like Apple, they're basically greasing the wheels to make sure those benefits keep flowing.
So it's not just about dodging regulations, it's about getting a piece of the pie, too.
Exactly. And there's this comment that really hit home for me. They wanted corporate welfare, billionaire immunity, and pay for play. Oh, you thought you'd get cheaper groceries and a one-time $600 check. Fucking dolts.
Damn. That's a pretty brutal take. They're saying corporations are winning while regular people are left footing the bill.
Yeah, it really highlights that gap, between what big businesses want and what everyday folks actually need. And that's something we'll be unpacking as we continue this deep dive.
It's kind of crazy to think, these companies, they have so much power, especially when money talks so loud in politics. We talked about what Apple might get out of this deal, like tariff breaks and all that jazz. But what about the risks? Could this donation bite them in the ass later?
It's a gamble, for sure. Trump's not exactly known for being predictable, right? This whole donation thing could be seen as a sign of weakness, like they're just begging for more demands.
Right, like giving a mouse a cookie and then...
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then again, it could also buy them some peace. Keep them off Trump's radar,
Yeah.
Avoid any political drama.
Sure, true. It's a high-stakes game they're playing. Speaking of which, Remember when Trump called Tim Cook Tim Apple? I always thought that was kind of telling.
Oh, yeah, totally. Intentional or not. It shows you how weird things are between Trump and these tech giants. This whole donation thing just adds another layer to it.
It really does. But beyond the awkwardness, what's this donation really going to mean for Apple, like when they have to deal with the Trump administration in the future?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
It's hard to say for sure. You'd have to really dig into the policies Trump made and see if they line up with Apple's interests. Like, did Apple lobby for certain tax breaks? Did they actually get them? That's the kind of stuff investigative journalists would be all over.
Yeah, behind the scenes stuff. But even if we don't see the direct impact, this donation still sends a message, right? What do you think that message is?
It's a tricky one. To Trump and his crew, it might be like a peace offering, trying to smooth things over.
Yeah.
But to Apple's rivals, it could be a sign that they're willing to play the political game no matter what it takes.
I see. But what about the people who actually matter? Apple's employees and their customers. How do you think they're seeing this whole thing?
That's where things get interesting. Apple, they've spent years building this image, the good guys you know, all about diversity and doing the right thing. But this donation, it kind of clashes with that image,
Yeah.
especially considering some of Trump's, more controversial stuff.
It's like they're trying to have it both ways.
Yeah, exactly. Remember that comment we talked about earlier? What's the point of having fuck you money if you never say fuck you? This feels like the opposite of that. Like they had the chance to make a statement, but they chose to play it safe instead.
It's a tough spot to be in. You got to keep your shareholders happy. But you also got to stay true to your values.
Exactly. And let's not forget about everyone else, the general public. What does it say about our democracy? When a company like Apple, with all its money and influence, feels like they have to make this kind of donation, is this just the price of doing business in America?
It makes you think about who really holds the power here.
It does. And that's a question we need to keep asking ourselves.
Yeah.
If we want things to change.
Okay, so we've talked about like why these donations happen, but what now? Like, is there any way to fix this whole money in politics thing? It feels kind of hopeless.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's been going on for so long. But I wouldn't say it's completely hopeless. There are some ideas floating around.
Yeah.
Ways to maybe make things a bit fairer. Campaign finance reform is a big one. Lots of folks are pushing for that, like stricter limits on how much corporations can donate, more transparency on where all this political money is going. Some even want elections to be publicly funded.
Yeah, that makes sense. Try to limit the influence of big money, right?
But haven't we heard this all before? Like, what's to stop it from just getting stuck in the mud? Legal battles, political gridlock, the whole shebang.
Yeah, you're right. Those are real obstacles. The people who benefit from the current system, they're not going to give up without a fight. And then there's stuff like the Citizens United ruling. It's made it way harder to control corporate spending in politics. The fight's not over. People are out there raising awareness, pushing for change, and that's where we come in. Us regular folks.
Okay, so we got to stay informed. But what can we actually do? Besides voting, of course. How can we hold these companies accountable? It feels like our actions don't really make a difference.
Well, one thing to remember is corporations, they care about what their customers think. Consumer pressure can be a real game changer.
So boycotts and stuff?
Exactly. Social media campaigns, too. Even shareholder activism. These things show companies that people are watching, that they need to clean up their act.
So like voting with our wallets.
Yeah, kind of like that. But I know it's not always easy. Especially with a company like Apple. They're everywhere.
For sure. So what else can we do?
Well, never underestimate the power of contacting your representatives. Let them know that campaign finance reform matters to you. Support the groups that are fighting for it. Every voice counts.
This has been a real learning experience. It's easy to get cynical about this stuff,
Yeah.
But hearing about these solutions, it does give me a little bit of hope.
Me too. It's a long road. But with enough people pushing for change, maybe we can actually make a difference. I hope so. So, for everyone listening, we want to hear from you. What really stuck with you from this deep dive?
What are you taking away from all of this?
What are you going to do to make a change?
Stay informed, stay engaged, and keep fighting for a system that works for everyone.
Not just the ones at the top.
Exactly.
This is just the beginning of the conversation. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep those brains working, keep asking questions, and keep pushing for a better future.